All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here for our March SEL Speaker Series event. We are really excited tonight to have one of our longtime friends to the SEL program and Lausanne Learning and Lausanne, Dr. Patrice Reed. I'm going to introduce her in just a second, but first I'm going to turn it over to Greg Graber just to talk a little bit about what this series is and what the SEL program here at Lausanne is. So Greg, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Amber. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I'm delighted to be here. My name is Greg Graber, and I'm the Director of Social Emotional Learning. And we do a lot of great programs for the Lausanne community. And I also work with Amber for our nonprofit Lausanne Learning, where we do consulting and coaching as well. And we try to just facilitate social and emotional learning to as many people as we can work with. We are delighted that you're here. And thank you, Patrice, for being here. I know I've known Patrice for a long time. I'm the former middle school head, and I was a teacher and coach at Lausanne before that. And her and her husband, Jarvis, have done so much for our community, and they graced us with their 4 wonderful children who we're all proud of, and they're doing great things, all Lausanne alums. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes, we are so grateful to have Dr. Reed here tonight. She has been, like I said, a longtime friend to Lausanne and Lausanne Learning. And as Greg mentioned, had 4 students come through Lausanne, wonderful alums. And we're just excited to have her as part of our community. So I want to introduce her to everyone with just a very brief introduction. So Dr. Reed has been practicing pediatrics for almost 30 years. She attended the University of Tennessee School of Medicine, where she received her medical degree, and then moved to Memphis. She did her residency at Le Bonheur. She went to GW, to George Washington School of Medicine. Then she came back to Memphis and joined a local practice. In 1998, she established her own practice, Memphis Pediatrics, and has been practicing pediatric medicine ever since. She's a member of the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and the Memphis Pediatric Society, where she has been the vice president and president. When she's not practicing medicine and being a wonderful member of the Lausanne community and hanging out with her kids, she enjoys reading and cooking, walking, and, as Greg mentioned, being super active in the community. Through her church, her organizations like Jack and Jill of America, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, and the Memphis, Tennessee chapter of the Lynx, she gives back to the community in so many ways. She's married to another doctor, Dr. Reed, the other Dr. Reed, who works at West Cancer Center. And again, they have 4 wonderful children. She does so much for our community. And what she's going to talk about tonight has, again, so much to do with the community that we hold near and dear here at Lausanne, and that I'm sure all of you, are a part of, and that's our kids. So she's going to talk about the strengths that already exist in our children and that help them bounce back during difficult times, and how we can strengthen those, enhance those, and facilitate those strengths. With technology, it's essential that we understand how to have a healthy relationship with technology for ourselves, but also with how our kids interact with it. So she's going to talk a lot about resilience and how we can kind of give those skills to our students. So again, thank you so much, Patrice, for being here. I'm so excited, and I'll let you take it away. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Amber, and thank you so much, Greg. As Amber said, I'm Patrice Reed, and I have been part of the Lausanne family for probably about at least 25 years. My oldest one started out there in first grade and went all the way through. So as I said, Lausanne is so dear to my heart. As I said, when I was asked to give this talk this evening, I was so excited because this subject is so dear to my heart. As a pediatrician and as a mom, I have seen so many children over the years who've been faced with just a lot of just stuff, things that, they weren't asked to to, happen to them, but it just happened. And it, the difficulty that they experienced, really took a toll on their lives. But I've been so blessed to see that over the years, those same children have been able to bounce back and to, move forward and to do really good things. So tonight, I'd like to spend a few minutes just talking to you about the subject of resilience and what you can do as parents to make sure that your children are resilient. I'm going to talk pretty much just a few minutes, kind of give you just some basic stuff, but I really would like for the majority of the hour that we have together is to hear from you guys and see what we can do to brainstorm to help your children be resilient. So without further ado, I'm going to figure out how to do this, share the screen and pull up my PowerPoint. So bear with me. Let's see here. I think if I do this. Yeah. Bear with me. I am so not tech savvy. Okay. So the topic of my talk tonight is cultivating resilience in our children. So I think we probably should start out with the definition of what resilience is. Resilience is the capacity to rise above difficult circumstances. It is a trait that allows us to exist in this less than perfect world while moving forward with optimism and confidence. The nice thing about it, our children really already have resilience built into their DNA. It's just basically our job to bring it out and to let them know that they do have it. I read a book about a couple years ago, and it's a great book, and I kind of put it at the end of my talk. It's by Kenneth Ginsburg, and he is a pediatrician, and he wrote a book on basically building resilience in children. And what he talked about was that resilience is actually based on 7 building blocks. He calls them the 7 C's. And if the children actually have these 7 C's firmly in place with the help of the parents, then they will be able to bounce back whenever rough times hit them. So what are these 7 C's? They are competence, confidence, character, connection, contribution, coping, and control. And we're going to talk just a little bit about each of them over the next few minutes. So competence. I'm trying to see here. Okay. Competence is the ability to handle situations or tasks effectively. Parents can help their children build their competence when they acknowledge and praise their children for their milestones. However, if we tend to overly praise or if we tend to dote too much, we basically undermine our children's ability to become competent. Basically, there needs to be a balance. Parents can promote their children's competence basically by getting out of the way. Getting out of the way is really hard for parents. Oftentimes, when we see our children in trouble, our parent alarm goes off, and we tend to, basically see that something bad's going to happen. And because they're our babies, we don't want anything bad to happen. So we tend to hover, tend to try to fix, try to correct the situation rather than letting children figuring it out themselves. We want to protect our children from any negative situations at all. But we need to let our children figure out things on their own. And when we create the message that they can do it on their own, we're building our children's competence. When we try to solve problems for our children, we undercut their growing sense of competence, and our children remain dependent on us. Example that I like to use is, like, for instance, your child learning how to ride a bike. When they first start to ride a bike, they're going to fall. They're going to hurt themselves there. But if we, every time they fall, try to pick them up, try to protect them, are they going to learn how to do it themselves? Not at all. We have to let them fall. We have to allow them to scrape their knees, because the more they fall, the more they are determined to try to figure out what they need to do to get on that bike and keep on going. We've got to let our children sometimes face difficult things in order for them to move on. We have to get out of the way. The next C, confidence. Children cannot gain confidence without experiencing their own competence. Confidence assures that children have some power over their environment. They are more likely to persevere and have an optimistic outlook rather than feeling powerless. Adults can nurture confidence by teaching problem-solving skills and providing a safe opportunity for them to practice those skills. Confidence needs reinforcement, though. Parents can reinforce confidence by doing the following things. Number one, just simply paying attention to what your children are doing, catching them when they're doing really good things, and praising them when you see them do good. But be careful how you praise them. When you praise children, you need to be specific and you need to be sincere. When you give out general praising, children see through that and they don't believe you and they don't feel that you're really doing or really acknowledging what they've tried to do. For instance, if your child brings home an art project and you look at it and you say, oh, that's great. Well, they're going to take that with a grain of salt. But if you say, oh, I like the colors that you used in the picture, or I like the theme that you had in your picture, that means so much more to their children. So be very concrete when you're trying to praise your kiddos. Children are going to make mistakes. And when they do make mistakes, you do not want to shame them. You want to recognize their strengths and remind them that they have the ability to succeed. We want to energize them to transform failure into learning experiences from which they can rebound on. Also, be careful about trying to encourage your children to be perfect. Oftentimes, children, when they are perfect, they're really not confident because they're fearful to take a step because they're afraid that they're not going to be successful in it. Rather than telling your children to be perfect, what you really want to do is say, just put forth your good effort. It's okay if you mess up because when we do mess up, it actually allows us to build on that to try to do better the next time. So you want to encourage good effort, but not for your children to be perfect. Connection is the next C. And connection to others provides the reassurance that our children, unknown caller, sorry, bear with me. I'm kind of doing dual duty. I'm on call and I'm also doing this too. So I'm trying to, okay, sorry, okay. But anyway, connection provides reassurance that our children will be fine in tough times. And connection gives us the security that convinces us to take chances. Examples of people who children can be connected to are the family. Parents, number one. You know, as parents, we are busy people. There's no doubt about it. But we want to make sure that our children know that they're with us, that we are there for them at all times. Try to make an effort in y'all's busy schedule just to have dinner with your kids every night, or at least, a few times a week. Try to find at least maybe one time a week where you guys are doing something as a family. And if you have more than one child, make an effort to do something with each child, just to let him or her know that what you're doing and the time you have with them is so special. Make sure that your children know their extended family, their grandparents, their aunts, their uncles. As I said, oftentimes because we're so busy, our children don't really take time to know the extended family, but encourage them to pick up the phone and call them. Or when you're going to see them, say, at the nursing home or whatever, take your kids along with them. When you establish those bonds early on, it means so much to the children and it means so much to the extended family. So when your children tend to have, difficulty down the road, those extended family members will be there for your kids, no doubt about it. Connection also means, can come from friends, not just the children's friends, but also adult friends that you have, teachers in the community leaders, as well as church leaders. All of these people They have a sincere interest in the well-being of your child. And you want to encourage your children to reach out and to get to know their teachers more than just, what they're teaching them in the classroom setting, or church leaders more than what they're doing within, you know, the church. But basically get to know these people, because these people can be a great resource for your kiddos. Without social foundation, kids are reluctant to try new adventures. If they don't take risk, they remain isolated and timid. They will not move forward to develop new competences and confidence. Character. Everyone, every family has its own recipe for good character. In our family, good character means being kind to other people, being compassionate, working hard, being responsible, being benevolent. Only you know what's best for your child. And it's important that character development comes from the parent, not from the best friend, not from someone on TV, but from you. Children learn character by the values you teach, your words of praise, and how you correct them. They learn by observing your values and your behavior in daily interactions inside and outside the home. And they learn by how adults within the home treat each other. When people have strong character, they have the ability to return to a set of core values during crisis, which makes them more resilient in the most trying times. Contribution, the next C. When people work to improve their community, they have a sense of purpose. Parents can support activities that enable their children to give rather than receive. There are a lot of ways that your children can contribute within society. They can help feed the needy, especially during the past couple years with the pandemic. There were often times where there were mobile food pantries. That's a great way to help others. Cleaning up the community, helping other students during tutoring sessions, and just sharing ideas, in the different clubs that they have. All my children, in one form or fashion, have participated in such activities. And I found that it was so good for them, because it allowed them to realize that the world doesn't revolve around them, but there are so many more people in this world, so many more people that have problems actually bigger than their own. And I think when my children were participating in these different activities, it really made them, realize that, and actually made them feel so much better and actually so much stronger themselves, that they could actually help rather than just receive. So contribution fosters resilience because it helps children gain something positive to strive toward. They learn that although they serve, it is so much more better to give than they receive so much more than what they could ever get. Coping. Resilience requires a wide range of skills to cope with. Basically, life is very stressful. So children need to be able to handle stress effectively. There are a lot of signs that you need to look for as a parent when children are undergoing stress. Oftentimes, the children may feel anxious, they may not eat much, they may have a hard time sleeping, they may be very moody, they may seem unusually tired, they may want to be by themselves, they may have a lot of just vague complaints like chronic headache or chronic belly pain. When you see these signs of stress, you need to, number one, check in with them. Ask them what's going on. They may respond, they may not, but at least you need to check in. If you can't figure it out, please make sure that you take them somewhere who can. Start with your pediatrician. And if your pediatrician has further concerns, please do not hesitate to seek further help, such as with a mental health provider. There are a lot of, unfortunately, negative ways to cope, such as overeating or not eating at all, drinking alcohol, drugs, smoking, sex, bullying, and even self-mutilation. These negative coping strategies may provide immediate gratification, but usually are harmful in the long run and intensify stress. You want to encourage positive ways to cope. For instance, positive ways include attacking the problem head on, assessing the magnitude and breaking it into small, manageable parts, being willing to let go, and then taking care of yourself. And those include things that you know already, but you need to reinforce, with your children. And that includes getting plenty of sleep, eating healthy, getting good exercise, deep breathing, mindfulness, engaging in a hobby, and sometimes just getting away from it all, taking a vacation. When children see their parents cope in a positive way, they tend to use those positive ways to cope also when they're faced with stress. And likewise, when they see parents cope in a negative way, unfortunately, they do that too. So always be a good role model for your kids. Control, the last C. Children need to learn to control their actions and their outcome. Children need to understand that things do not just happen to them. Children who learn inner control by making decisions and facing the consequences gradually become independent and more resilient. Parents can help children gain control by avoiding lecturing. That's easy said, hard to do. Children tend to tune us out when we lecture. We need to be brief, we need to be direct, we need to listen. We need to get our children involved by asking them to make a choice. We want to put children in the driver's seat so they can figure it out themselves. Alternative ways to lecturing. One way is something called choreographed conversations. And that's just basically a casual conversation between a parent and a child. But the parent has a hidden agenda, and that is to steer the child through a problem so that the child can come up with his own solution. An example would be, for instance, say your child's in third grade, and you as a parent may say, hey, Johnny, I heard that some of the fifth graders have been smoking cigarettes in the bathroom. They got suspended. And then you can kind of start asking questions as, do you know why they did it? Do you think that that was a wise idea? Then you can start bringing it down to like, maybe, do you know of anybody yourself who did it? Do you think it's a good idea? Would you ever consider doing it? Doing this, you can bring forth a lot of important hot topics, but in a way that's not necessarily so invasive, but allows a child to actually think about what's going on and kind of come up with, the pros and cons of each situation. So hopefully they can move forward to make the decisions they need to make. Another way to avoid the lecturing trap is to simply involve your children in role playing. There they go again, sorry. And basically, role playing is a strategy that allows your children to explore hypothetical situations and grasp how these decisions or actions will determine their outcomes. A nice way to do it would be basically maybe through a television program. It's real important, first of all, for parents to, know what your children are watching. And when you're catching your children watching a program and it has, again, a hot topic, take advantage of that. Sit down with him or her and just basically ask something simple that if you see something, interesting going on the TV that really shouldn't be going on, maybe ask your child, would they do something like that? If so, why? If not, why? But again, just to get them thinking about, the good and the bad of things that are going on in this world without necessarily pointing fingers to them, but just get them through the thought process. Alternative to lectures also is something called a decision tree. And that basically is, for instance, you can lay it out on a piece of paper and you can say, with this tree, the trunk is basically the problem at hand. And then that there are different branches that are taking different paths towards the problem there. For instance, some branches will lead to positive outcomes, some branches will lead to negative outcomes, and the children can see what is the best path to take. The bottom line is that parents can enhance children growing sense of self-control by basically just observing them and offering a steady hand and guiding rather than dictating or lecturing or taking charge of every action. In conclusion, the 7 C's, competence, competence, character, connection, contribution, control, and coping, are building blocks that cultivate resilience in our children. And these building blocks are already in our children's makeup. But by showing our kids that we care about them, that we are there for them all the time, our children will be receptive to our guidance towards bringing out their resilience. As I mentioned, there are a couple books that I think that you would probably benefit from having in your library. The first one is Building Resilience in Children and Teens by Kenneth Ginsburg. And the other one is called The Scaffold Effect by Harriet Couplewith. The scaffold effect actually is very similar to the first book, but it basically kind of uses a slightly different analogy. It uses basically children as a building or a structure that's being erected, and the parents act as a scaffold. And what the author tries to do is basically equip parents with the tools they need to be the best support system for the child, so that when this building is fully erected, it will be strong, it will be able to withhold anything that comes its way. Eventually the scaffold goes away and the building will be there and remain there because it has been guided by the parents in a very positive way, rather than having parents just basically do everything for the child. So again, very similar to the first book, but just a slightly different way of approaching it. I've preached for the last few minutes. Time for me to stop. I'd like to hear from you guys. As I said, we've all, as parents, have seen our children go through some tough times. And, I've seen it in my own kids, and I'm sure you've seen it in yours. And I'd like to hear from you guys, some things that you've seen your children go through recently and how they've possibly overcome it. And if they hadn't overcome it, if they had not gone forward, what would you do, say, now at this point to try to help them move forward? Anybody like to chime in?
Hi, Dr. Reed.
Hi.
I would like to share something. My son, Gabriel, we are new to Lausanne. This is our first year, and he is a 9th grader. He, for many years, struggled with the need to be perfect. So much so it hindered him from trying a lot of new things, because for him, it was safer to not try it instead of the risk of failing. And I struggled with that as a parent and as an educator, because I felt like I was intentional about not putting that pressure on him. And so I don't know, that was very hard for me to watch him, because my approach to parenting and to teaching was, those trip ups and falls are opportunities of growth. And so one thing that I've done lately to help with that is being transparent when I fail at something, so that he can see, hey, even adults, we don't get it right the first time. We don't get it right second or third time. And so I think slowly he's beginning to understand, one, that those are opportunities of growth. But that was probably the one thing that we noticed that started to make a difference with him, with perfection.
I think that's great. And it really is because it said, I think as parents, we always want the best for a child. And I've fallen into that trap so many times, say, do your best. Until I realized, the pressure that we were putting on our children in doing that. And so, over the years, I've kind of matured and I've backed off and I said, just give it, try, just try. And as I said, just put forth, a good effort. And I like the way you said that, when your child sees that you're trying and you trip up or mess up, it really makes you feel real. And it makes you, and for your child to see that you can actually bounce back and still move forward, even though you trip up there, that's just such a good message that you're sending to him. So kudos to you for doing that. It's great. Would anyone else like to share? Well,
So I was just going to hop in. Oh, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
I was just going to kind of echo that and say, like, I am a perfectionist and I struggle with that. And so my daughter, who is also new to Lausanne this year, she's an 8th grader. It's been kind of interesting to see how that goes. I mean, she loves it and it's been great, but it's really hard for me to be like, okay, well, you gotta see on this and let's try harder. Like that's a difficult thing, I think, to be such a perfectionist and to know the anxiety that it causes me.
Yeah.
And then to have to be like, I know in my heart that I need to like make sure she understands she doesn't have to be perfect, but that's so hard. And what you said about how as parents we have to really take care of ourselves and let our children see us taking care of ourselves, that really resonated with me because I think I could do a better job of being like, I'm taking care of my mental health or my physical health. Look, let me model that for you. I think that's such a thing that we don't talk enough about as parents is taking care of ourselves and thinking about our anxieties too and how that comes across to our kids. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah. And, I went through it. One of my children, as I said, has battled with a lot of mental health issues over the years. And it had really taken a toll on myself and my husband. And I think the only way that we were able to go through it was just, taking care of ourselves, making sure that we would have a few moments, if it was not every day, at least a few times a week, just to go for a walk, just the two of us, my husband and myself, going out to dinner by ourselves, to have some downtime where we were not always just dealing with the problems that was going on with my son. And I think because we made an effort to do that, we were so much stronger. And my child actually realized that, hey, as I said, I'm going to be okay because my mom and dad, they're doing everything they can to be okay and to push forward. I need to do better myself. And so actually, he started doing a lot of self help things too. He started working out and, eating a little bit better and, getting good rest. And because of that, some of the mental health issues he was going through, some of the anxiety really got a lot better just because he started to take care of himself too. So self help is really important. Any other questions? Anybody else would like to chime in with an example? Well, I'll give another example, as I said again, with lots of kids. I have one of my children. She's actually now in her last year of medical school. And in her last year, actually, it started back this past August. She came to my husband and myself and she says, I think I need to take a break. And we said, really, why? And she really realized at the time that she was feeling very burned out, just burned out about going straight through college and through medical school and doing really well. She just realized that, for her own health and in order to move forward, she just needed to pause. And she wasn't going to just stop. She had decided to get another degree in public health, which again was still a lot of work, but it was going to be a lot stressful than just going through the medical school route. But because she took that, it allowed her to get the strength that she needed, to get the coping skills that she needed to move forward there. And as a result, she really has bounced back, and she has become, stronger than ever. And, really she's ready to tackle the next phase of her life there. But she realized that there were some issues that she had to deal with, and she pulled forth a lot of coping skills to get there. So, I saw a lot of resilience in her. And as I said, I'm just grateful that she's going in the right direction and pushing forward there.
I have a
Hello.
question. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Um, I have, I guess, an example of something that I've recently experienced with my daughter. Um, she had, I guess there was like a little conflict at school, and it was with a young lady that they've grown up together for, I mean, literally since birth. And everything in me wanted to call both of them and to sit them down and tell them this, that, and the other. And I can remember a friend of mine telling me, a friend of mine whose children are now grown. I'm an older mom, so to speak. I had my children in my 30s versus my friends having them in their 20s. And she was saying, she said, Carla, the one thing I learned is that you allow them to work it out themselves. Don't meddle, don't butt in, and don't try to fix their boo-boos or whatever. She said they've got to learn how to conflict resolution. They've got to learn how to deal with conflicts. She said if you meddle this time, she'll expect it the next time and the next time, and she'll never learn. This is something I need to deal with. This is something that I'm going to have to figure out. Me and my friend, we're going to have to sit down and talk and come to a resolve. And so when it happened this week, the other guardian, because it's my little play niece's grandmother, her mom passed, and her grandmother called me, and she was saying, hey, we need to have a meeting and blah, 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 blah. And I said, oh, okay. And in my head, I could hear my friend saying, Carla, let them work it out themselves. Don't butt in. So I did just that, and it was resolved.
Yeah.
And I was so happy. I was like, oh, this really does work.
It does. It really does. Sarah. It's so true. And I'm glad that you were able to do that. Because again, as parents, we don't like to see our kids get hurt. We don't like
Right.
for them to feel sad. We want to do whatever we can to make it better. But again, we have to realize sometimes the best thing is just really just to back off a little bit and just
Yes.
allow them to use some of the skills that they have observed you use as well to move forward and to solve the problem on their own. And as I said,
Yes, ma'am.
it would mean so much more to them when they do that. And it really gives them the confidence that when it happens again, they can do it without you
Right.
being there for them. Yeah. So great.
Yes.
That's a good one. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Any
Patrice, I was just gonna chime in really quick and just say, like, I think that that's one thing that we see so much, and I'm sure you've seen it with 4 kids too. I mean, even the conflict like between them sometimes I'm sure was, I had siblings, it was intense sometimes.
Yeah.
I think that like they see how we handle conflict too. Like that's just another thing of modeling. Um, and they pick up on that. I said something the other day and my own mother like came out of my mouth. Like, it was like I was her. And then my daughter said something, like we were talking about kind of a little conflict in her friend group. And she said something, and I said, oh my gosh, like that was me that you just said. And it kind of took me back for a second because I was like, she actually is listening when she's rolling her eyes and, you know, acting like she doesn't hear me. She really is listening though. And that's,
Yeah.
I had never really thought about it that way.
Yeah, they really do. As I said, they're looking at you, they're observing you, whether you know it or not. And so, as I said, you know, and it's hard, you know, because of parents, we're human, and sometimes we don't do things that are always really good. But just be careful about what you say and what you do around your children, because they're there and they're picking up on every little thing that you're doing. So yeah, all good.
Dr. Reed, I have one more question. So one of my children also struggled with some emotional instability over the last couple of years, and it was terrifying for my husband and I as parents. We are on the road to some healing, but when I think about the resilience part, I am still struggling with really letting him fall sometimes, because I don't know if this is going to be the one thing that sends him over the edge. And so I guess what would be your suggestion for a parent who's trying to find that balance to still make sure that he or she is in a situation where they are trying to build that resilience, but still, I don't know, there as support? I guess the scaffolding book might be what I need to read.
Yeah, and it's a hard one because, again, you know, even when you have a child with mental health issues, you know, you do need to be a little bit more careful because you don't want to, you know, send him over the edge. But again, even that particular child still needs to be able to kind of figure things out on his own. And sometimes they still have to fall a little bit. You may find yourself being there a little bit closer or jumping in a little bit quicker, but they still have to figure it out. And I think, you know, that's a hard one. I don't know if your child is going through counseling now or not, but you may want to, you know, even touch bases with, you know, your mental health provider, just to say, how far can I go to let this child just kind of, you know, fall a little bit? And oftentimes, you know, that provider can kind of give you some tips on what you can do. Because again, those children need to learn as well, but it is a little bit trickier for sure there. And so, you know, again, hopefully there's some counseling that you've got going on with your kiddo. But if not, you may want to consider maybe just kind of having someone as a backup to kind of help you, guide you to do the things that you need to do.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Any other thoughts about anything?
Well, if there are no other questions, I think that I always learn so much from you, Dr. Reed. I always spend the whole time taking notes and scribbling ideas and thinking about how I relate to my own child, but also, you know, to my mom and to my parents, and how, you know, like my mom is definitely not going, oh, I want to be just like Amber, but she definitely, you know, it makes you kind of think about how you relate, and you see, like, you know, maybe I wasn't supported in this way, and maybe it's because my mom didn't know, or maybe I was really supported in this way. So I think that whenever you speak about this topic, I think that it leads to like intergenerational discussions too. So I really appreciate that. And I put the links to Dr. Ginsburg's book and to the new book, the Scaffold Parenting book, that it's like a new edition that just came out. So I put those in the chat as well for anyone who's interested in those.
Right. Yeah, definitely good reads there. And as I said, you know, there are a lot of really good things that you can utilize. And again, you know, your children are will always be your kids. And I found that, I felt like I was struggling with this when they were younger, but still, even as young adults, there are a lot of tools that I've actually read in both books that have actually helped me with my young adults too. So, so really, I hope you do enjoy them for sure.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. As always, I feel
Well,
smarter when I hear you speak. So we really
I don't know
appreciate it.
about that, but thank you. And I'm glad that you guys could just spend a few minutes with me tonight there. I've really enjoyed it. And I wish all the parents who have been on this meeting the best of luck with their children there. As I said, they're special. They're very, very special human beings. And, as I said, just the fact that you've taken time just to be on this talk tonight shows that you really do care about them and you really do want the best for them. So good luck. And, really, I hope that, the rest of the academic year goes well for all of them. And you guys enjoy your summer.